You're listening to the Cambridge Insider Podcast. On today's episode, hosts Stephen and Mariah discuss affordability for your international programs. Today's episode is sponsored by Andrew Osborne Academy. AOA is a co-ed day and boarding school for grades preschool through 12th grade, and they have postgraduate programs. Thanks for listening.
Cambridge Insider Podcast time. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Cambridge Insider Podcast. As we record, we are just about on the eve of Halloween in the US. I know many of our students who may be here for the first time. Halloween is a tradition all over the world, but especially in the US, a really, really big traditional day of dressing up and candy and maybe some parades and trick-or-treating around the neighborhood. So I'm sure all of our students will be enjoying that. Mariah Thompson, any Halloween plans?
No, just I have some nieces and nephews, so you always gotta see them, pass out the with them and get the candy with them. So just like simple plans. I can't believe we're heading into holiday season already. It's like just around the corner. Thanksgiving into our Christmas holiday season as well, whatever you celebrate. And so I can't believe it.
It's crazy.
It's almost 2026.
Yeah, it's moving, and things at Cambridge are moving straight and full steam ahead. Without further ado, you did some, as always, I feel like did some really good research, found some really pertinent articles that we'll be sharing as well. Do you want to introduce a little bit of that?
Yeah, so in today's episode, we're going to be talking about a couple different things, but from this main frame from one of our markets that we're in. We've been in it for a little bit, but we've started to take a little bit deeper dive on the Cambridge side. We've into more staff in this market, as well as other outside areas. Not that we're moving away from the other ones we've been into, but it's for Vietnam. And so I had found this article from one of the Vietnamese newspapers that has been doing research on international students, specifically in the market. They do touch upon all international students, but I also thought it was really good timing too, because within Cambridge, like I said, we've been investing in this market. Just last week, we hosted an agency summit. And I wrote a blog about it, and I'll put it in our show notes as well if you want to take a look at it. There's a picture there so you can kind of see what it was like when they were there. Stephen, would you explain to our listeners what an agency summit is, what that means for our school partners and for our CEM school partners as well?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And if you are a partner that's traveled with Cambridge to anywhere, Vietnam, Korea, China, but specifically Vietnam, you might know that you may have been part of an agency summit, but essentially it's just a summit where we get together and host all of our top agency partners with all of their agents. It's an opportunity for us to talk a little bit about Cambridge and our network of partner schools, what they offer, what type of programs they have available, and really just a platform to be able to market and speak about these programs. Sometimes we have US school partners there alongside us in person. A lot of times it's just our teams in Vietnam that are presenting, but it really is a great platform for us to connect with agents and agencies that ultimately end up bringing us a lot of the kids that enroll in your programs.
Yeah, and so again, I'm going to put that in the show notes, and if you're like, hey, I want to go on these trips, just reach out to us. Our email too, and be connected of what that looks like. And so what we're going to do now is just going to go into this article again about from the Vietnam newspaper. And so the main topic of this is the number one factor when it comes to students choosing and deciding where they're going to go to school. And so the headline of this article is Affordability Drives Study Destination Choices for International Students. And so some key takeaways, this also will be in the notes if you want to look at the article yourself. Some key takeaways is that the recruitment partners found that financial factors dominate international students' decisions where to study. Specifically, 4 of the top 5 drivers of destination choices were related to cost, affordability, and return on investment. So not only do they want to know the cost now, but they want to know what country after grad will be return on investment. What does it look like for their college acceptances? What does it look like for getting a job after college? These are things that they think about for cost. It's just not just about the opportunity. They want to know in the long run where they're going to get their money back from and what they're going to be investing in. And so we've talked about this many times, especially for our expanded markets like Vietnam. And so we just wanted to point this out, that it's not just, we are experts in this, but it's not just us having the experience. Like, this is what they're seeing. And we also know that Vietnam is a growing market too. And so I just wanted Stephen to talk leadership, what they can do, and what some conversations they can have with their school board or even with their teams on deciding what type of student, where, and everything like that. Like, what is important for them to know with this article and the things that we've seen.
Yeah. I read through the article as well. It's really worth a read. So if you do go into the show notes, make sure to read the whole article. It's a great find by Mariah. I think first and foremost, it's important to remember that this cost discussion, specifically for students from Vietnam, but we can really group Korea as a destination or as a country of sending students, and Turkey into that as well. It's not just a case of students or the consumer wanting cheaper prices. It's also a case of competition in the market. So the US is competing against Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the UK. These are all others, and several others. I'm just naming you a couple that are all other study destinations that typically have cheaper prices than the US. So the students not just have certain financial barriers, but because of competition, they've also seen that education, really good value programs at a lower price is possible. So this is, I think, sometimes there's a misconception. I speak to many schools who go, well, this is what it costs to come here. And you can have that argument, sure, and there's an argument about value, but understand that this is competition on a world stage, and that if you really, really want to tap into that market, as this article rightfully points out, it's about cost, right? I think also the second part competition side is, I think sometimes school officials look at it very one-dimensionally financially, in terms of, like, we're getting a student at 50% of the regular international student cost. Financially, where does that leave us? Yes, there's an argument for that. It's not a black and white argument. It's not a one. What we've seen, strategies that have really worked and ways to converse with your board and the rest of your school, financial team that have really worked is, what else are these students bringing to a community? What other value that you can't really place money, as on it, or you place that in terms of money on it? What else do these students bring to the community? Right? So many of our schools are looking for diversity. It's part of their values and their morals and their commitments and their school sort of insignia is that we're all about diversity. Well, if you want real diversity, this is a way to find it, but you're going to have to sacrifice maybe a little bit on price. The second part of that I think is important is also to compare to what are you charging domestically, not to compare with what are you charging in the China market. An unfair comparison. So to compare what are you charging, domestically, and how can you maybe bring a little bit of those what you charge for Vietnam, Korea, Turkey, and then also look at maybe staggering costs and not just looking at it as, well, if I'm charging this immediately, then that's what I'm going to have to charge for always. But really, a part of building your brand in any new market is about becoming visible. And how do you become visible? You've got to get into the market. So maybe for a year or two, or for a student or two, you offer that pricing. And by offering great pricing, you give that student an amazing experience. They graduate and they end up being successful. And what does that do to your brand? It elevates your brand. Now people are not just talking about the cheap price. Now people are talking about, you can go there as a Vietnamese student and be incredibly successful. And that buys you that brand equity that you didn't have before, but you wouldn't have had that without the sacrifice of a lower price point. So I'm going to urge, I think, more and more for school officials, heads of school boards of advisors, to think a little bit more dynamically about the idea of cost, right? And think about the value that you get from these kids. Think about the diversity that you get from these kids, and think about how you can stagger and change your financial model, be flexible with your financial model to give you an opportunity to prove to the market how amazing your program is.
Yeah, that's what I was hearing from you right before you said it. I was like, it's just about the flexibility. Like be flexible, work with the student, especially if it's a student you want, you see really fitting well in your school and into your program. Work with them, work with the agent, and work with us. We'll talk to the student for you as well. So it's just about being flexible and realizing that sometimes cost isn't one fit all, and not one fit market. You definitely have to be flexible and bend to meet the students where they're at and what this market is right now. That kind of goes.
Yeah, sorry, right, I'm scared I'm going to forget this.
That's okay.
But also just understanding that when you plan, and I think boards of directors of schools and heads of school, presidents, principals, financial directors are often thinking about the next 5 years, the next 10 years, right? Mm-hmm. The one thing we know about the international market is it's super resilient, but it's not always shaped in the same way. So yes, China might be your biggest sender of students right now, and that's great. Continue to leverage that. Continue to recruit those kids. But two things: if you do have a lot of kids from China in your program right now, number one, that gives you financial ability because of that. Because of the number of students, to be able to discount some other markets, first and foremost. And then number two, China might not always be the biggest sector. We don't know that. Mm-hmm. And so while you want to continue getting those kids from China, you need to start diversifying. You need to start putting structures in place now that diversify where your kids come from. And no better place to do that when you are getting financially, good kids in on a financial level from other parts of the world as well, like China. So just something to think about if you're planning 5 to 10 years from now. Yeah,
and that's something good to talk about in this other aspect of what I wanted to talk about was just the diversifying. And sometimes we have host families that listen to our podcast. So I wanted to speak a little to them, although this is good for schools to also think through when they're processing. But when it comes to this, like, again, we said costs and affordability. Like, this is a big decision that families are making. It costs a lot of money per year to send their student, and it's sacrifice. And although they might be able to afford it, it's still a big choice and a big ask, and it does put a burden on the family. Now, yes, some families have it. That's just like in America. Some families have it, some are in middle class, wherever they land. But that's the same for all the students. And so host families, I just want you to know, yes, the students can't afford this, but it is a big toll on their families and a big decisions. And not every student is in the same boat of they can just spend this money to come here. That is a big decision. It's sometimes a generational decision. Their grandparents and their parents make the decisions together on this is their education. So I just wanted to remind that to our host families to just, maybe remove a stereotype about our students or remove any notion. And that's for even schools too. We don't know what went into this family decision. We don't know anything other than that they are making the decision because they're there. And so just take that with a grain of salt and just know that all students have all different backgrounds, come from all different families.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Super important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that is kind of it for the article and for us. We just wanted to touch base on that. Stephen also just saw that we had another article that came out literally today that kind of touches on this. So on our next episode, we'll talk into it. But it just seems to be like this is the theme right now that we're hitting home. We're doing the research. And then also in a couple months, we should have the new Open Doors report. So we'll be able to give us some really signified data and details and not just market hearsay. But yeah, we're looking forward to that coming out soon too.
Exciting times. I think from the pod, we always say this: we're just trying to inform. We're trying to help, school partners, students, host families, anybody who's involved in international education. Just give them more information. Bring things to light that maybe they won't know about. I did just want to mention before we sort of say goodbye today. Exciting news is that we currently have one of our partners in China at one of these agency summits. And that in March, we've just confirmed we'll have 2 agency summits, one in Vietnam and one in Korea. We'll be taking some school partners to those. So it sort of ties in really nicely. We're excited that we've been able to confirm those dates and put those down. So it's some exciting news breaking from China or from our market. Mariah, any final thoughts from your side?
Nope, just happy holidays. We hope you guys really enjoy this season.
Absolutely. To all of our listeners, to remember to listen, to like, listen, subscribe, share the pod, send in any questions you may have, and we'll catch you around the next episode of the Cambridge Insider Pod.
Thanks for listening to the Cambridge Insider Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel to never miss an episode. For more Cambridge updates, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Have a great week and stay connected.